Ladies, gents, colleagues, counterparts, family, friends, Quinton here from the Corporate Partnership Department, back again with my second addition to my Juneteenth history lesson video. Last year I made an introduction video about my favorite holiday. If you want to check it out, you can find it in the link right here. Inspired by the feedback, the activism, and the allyship sparked by last year's events, I want to dig a little bit deeper with this lesson, alright? And I'm not going to regurgitate the same information because it's a lot more to learn. But I will touch on the history that led into the holiday and why it's important in today's world. But first, I want us all to take a second to put ourselves in the shoes of the enslaved people on the plantations in Galveston, Texas, June 19, 1865. Before that day, millions of enslaved Africans throughout generations of their existence didn't even think freedom would ever happen. Because the reality of their situation was, at the time, their parents and grandparents were enslaved, they were slaves, and their kids were born into slavery. So that's really the only life that they knew. For decades and centuries, enslaved people prayed for, hoped for, worked for, and literally fought for their freedom. Alright? And when I say fought for, I mean everything from slave rebellions on plantations across the country to fighting in the Union Army during the Civil War that led to the abolishment of slavery, aka the Emancipation Proclamation. Now, a quick side note, 51 years before the events took place in Galveston, Texas, the national anthem was written. And during that time, the freedom, liberty, and justice that the author was referring to did not include the lifestyle of slaves, since they were considered property and 3/5 of a man instead of actual human beings. This is a fact that was actually mentioned in the third stanza of the national anthem. When you have a second, I recommend you check it out. But that's a conversation for another day. To put things into perspective, 2020 seemed like it would never end. And that was only 365 days. Slavery lasted for almost 250 years. But thankfully, in 2020, we realized what really matters. And we should continue to use this crisis that we're currently living through as a reason to educate ourselves. Because ignorance is no longer an excuse, right? So where do we go from here? How do we continue to grow? Let's make Juneteenth a commemoration, not of the horrific customs that our country embraced, but rather as a showcase of the strength in the American spirit to, one, recognize wrong and to set about making it right. Let's be the new America that levels the playing fields to achieve even greater equality. I want to challenge everybody to use this day as a day of reflection, right? Whatever you're moved to watch, read, whatever you do, be thoughtful during your reflection and try to personalize it. If you can't make a Juneteenth event, be the event. Get a group of friends together, watch some movies, have some dialogue, celebrate freedom. As much as this holiday is celebrating African Americans' freedom, it's also a celebration of America's complete freedom. Because until we're all free, nobody's free. Similarly, all lives can't matter until Black lives matter. Holidays are great, but it's the true reason of why we celebrate them that brings generations of people together. Juneteenth embodies a resounding message with a destiny that honestly has not been completely fulfilled yet. I'll end with the African proverb that recently spoke to me. We don't inherit this land from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children. Are we okay with accepting the tainted and toxic traditions passed on from America's ancestors, although we know better is attainable? Or are we going to proudly return new traditions to the next generation that truly identifies with liberation? I know what I want to do. What about you? Play your part. Happy Juneteenth. Peace.